3.0 stream, today's PowerPoint, we are ranking the best young cores in the NBA. Now, before we get going, created by Slightly Biased. Great work, Slightly Biased. Thank you, Slightly Biased. You're welcome, Slightly Biased. No, seriously, Slightly Biased. No, you're welcome, Slightly Biased. You look really good today, Slightly Biased. Thanks, Slightly Biased. You look great, too. All right, before we get into it, what do I classify as young core? Last year we did this. I should have followed suit. Last year we did the 2020 draft onwards, counted towards the young core. I'm mixing that up this time. Under the age of 25 on opening night classifies as young core. So guys 24 and younger pretty much starting on opening night count as young cores. I'm not counting Luka and SGA. I thought of a better way to do this while I was doing it, and that was it should be guys that are on rookie deals or aren't on max contracts, right? But well, that's not the way that we did it. Okay. So here we go. Let us get into this, shall we? I'm not here for arguing, so don't get mad at me. You guys are going to be mad at me about one ranking, but I'll explain when it all happens. I have the Celtics here at dead last. They are a team that is competing for a championship. They are an older team. This shouldn't be much of a surprise. Of course, Tatum and Brown are young and building blocks, so it's not like they're, years away from falling out. But if you look at their guys that are 24 on their roster, Jordan Walsh, is he an NBA player? We're not sure. Jaden Springer, who they got at the trade deadline last year. This is the end. The Boston Celtics are not number one. Baylor Shireman. Oh, you just got here. No, this is the first team we've done. And Baylor Shireman, who they just got in the draft, who's 24 years old. So, any arguments here? I can't imagine that there are any. The Celtics look like they have the worst. Did you lose weight again? You kind of look like you were under 300 pounds. Fuck you, first and foremost. Take a look at this, right? Okay, now imagine that. Roundhouse kick to your trachea. Do the math. Number 29, I do have the Phoenix Suns. Giving them the spot up on the Celtics. Why? Because I do think Ryan Dunn is an interesting player. He had a really nice play. I think it was last night. In their preseason game where he got a steal and a pull-up three in transition. A lot of people say that he's one of the best perimeter defensive prospects they've seen in a long time, but the offensive game is just none to speak of. But if he can shoot threes or whatever, he's somebody who can play for them immediately. 21 years old. Osa Ighodaro, they also got in this year's draft. I don't know how the fuck to pronounce that. Bulls here. I mean, I don't know. Not a great young core, but obviously this is an old team that is contending and wanting to win right now. You'll find that's a common trend amongst these teams here at the bottom. The Milwaukee Bucks, same thing. You look here, and it's where exactly is the talent that we can count on. I'll come out and say it. I'm a fan of Andre Jackson. I thought he had some interesting moments last year. What's his ceiling? I'm not so sure. Beauchamp, I'm pretty much completely and totally out on. A.J. Johnson, they drafted in the first round, got a lot of shit for that pick. But, we'll see. Tyler Smith, they also just got Chris Livingston. We'll see how it all plays out. I'm giving them the nod over the teams below them because I do like Andre Jackson a decent amount. The Clippers are where we start to get into sad territory because you would want, if you're a Clippers fan, you would hope that there was a light at the end of the tunnel with some interesting young talent that you could maybe build around when this era inevitably comes to its conclusion. But you look at it, Cam Christie, who somebody in the GM poll said was the best value in the draft. Okay. Kai Jones. Bones Highland, is he even going to be on the fucking team anymore? Kevin Porter Jr. So the reason why I do have them higher is I would say out of everyone below, Kevin Porter Jr. is the better player out of anyone that we just talked about. Say whatever you want about the off-court shit. Should he be playing in the league? I'm talking strictly about basketball here. But he is 24 years old. Not really exciting either. It's not like he's great. Also not that fun to root for. So there you go. I have the Knicks here at 26. This is more of a volume thing. Deuce McBride, I think, is the best player we've talked about. Out of any player that we've mentioned, I think Deuce McBride is the player I'd want to have on my team. But they're just, this is it. Like they don't really have young talent. I mean, they're trying to win right now. It's not like their roster's old or anything like that. But if we're talking under 24, Tyler Kolek, who they just drafted, might be interesting. Might get some minutes. Joel Moran thinks McBride can be a 6 Man of the Year candidate and close games over Josh Hart. I don't know about 6 Man of the Year candidate, but it's possible, I guess. But he showed quite a bit of stuff last year. That's why he got a contract extension. Good-looking young player. I'm putting the Lakers here, and thought about switching the Lakers and the Knicks just because I like Deuce McBride more than any of these guys. But I will say, Max Christie, I am interested in. I think there's something there for him. Jalen Hood-Schifino, I'm not so sure. Max Lewis, I'm not so sure. Dalton Connect, I think, could be a good NBA player as well. So it's just more of a volume thing. And now that I'm looking at it, let's just pretend I swapped the Lakers and the Knicks. Okay? I am missing Bronny. Bronny was not on their basketball reference roster for some reason. Yes, no Bronny James listed. Pretend Bronny James is here. So any arguments so far? I mean, these teams aren't really worth arguing over, I don't think. Here's where I'm going with the Nuggets. And this might seem low. I think that there's a kind of a tier jump following this, where each team moving forward has some interesting young talent. And that is true with the Nuggets. Peyton Watson has shown plenty of flashes. Really good defensive player. Day'Ron Holmes tore his ACL. We don't know. Julian Strawther. We'll see. Some interesting stuff. Christian Brown, going to be starting this year. Zeke Naji, don't think he's a good basketball player, but he's 23 years old, which is surprising. I thought he was older. Hunter Tyson, But Christian Brown, we've seen him be a good rotational player in the NBA. Julian Strawther, there's definitely something there. I think that he could be a good NBA player. Peyton Watson, there's definitely something there. But they're all just kind of hopefuls and what ifs. And if they do end up turning out the way that we wanted to, we're just talking about rotation players. Like, we're not talking about any real potential all-stars or anything like that. Just solid rotation players, which is all the Nuggets need them to be fair. But when we're talking about a list like this, they're low. They rank lowly. Actually, the Nuggets being at 24 just surprised me. I thought they were a little bit higher. At 23, I do have the Nets, which, again, not really what you want to see as a Nets fan considering the state of your team, but you are moving towards a complete and total rebuild. Dariq Whitehead, who, did we see it all last year? Dealt with an injury. Noah Clowney, we'll see it from those guys. Both those guys drafted in the first round a year ago. Day'Ron Sharpe's only 22. That was a little bit surprising to me, but by a lot of like rebounding metrics, which aren't the most reliable thing, Day'Ron Sharpe is one of the most talented rebounders the league has ever seen. Cam Thomas, obviously, I think is the cream of the crop so far amongst players that we've talked about. Zaire Williams, who they traded for. I mean, Trenton Watford, who's kind of an interesting player. Jalen Wilson, we'll see. But Cam Thomas here, I think, is the intriguing player. We talked about no one we've talked about up until this point you would think has like real legitimate all-star upside. Cam Thomas does, although I'm not entirely sure he'll get there. He could, just from sheer volume and counting stats. Here's where I have the Mavericks. Now, we can debate about this all we want. I'm sure some of you guys are going to be upset by it. Derek Lively, 20 years old, obviously, is the centerpiece here. I think he's the best player that we have talked about so far. Jaden Hardy. I think the best case scenario, in my opinion, for Jaden Hardy is like a 7th or 8th man, to be honest with you. It's all right. It's all right. Max, we are in pure wait-and-see mode if he can be an NBA player. And Quentin Grimes, who is 24 years old, coming off of a down year for him, but was at one point a pretty promising young player. But yes, Derek Lively is the cream of the crop, the best player we've talked about up until this point. I think for a while you'll see that be the case where it's just, all right, who's the best young prospect here? And then we get to like, all right, there's 3 or 4 good young prospects. Now we have to figure out, is it better to have the one really good one and a couple okay ones, or like 3 good, not great ones, if that makes sense. Mavs have the best middle-aged player core? I don't know. Maybe. But Derek Lively is fantastic, 20 years old. Video coming out later today. That's all I'll say about that. I have the Wizards here, and yes, I do have the Wizards ahead of the Mavericks, and I might contradict myself a little bit here because I think, rather have Derek Lively than any of these guys, especially from what we've seen so far. But you do have Bilal, who I think is going to be a very good NBA player. Keyshawn George, who they just drafted, Johnny Davis. Keyshawn George, who they just drafted, and then Sarr and Carrington, who Sarr was getting first overall pick buzz the entire draft process until the draft got here. Was really bad in summer league. I don't know. We'll see. Has the tools to be a really good player, and Bob Carrington looked incredible in the summer league. So, and I do think Bilal Coulibaly is going to be a very good basketball player. So again, they're at the ground floor of their rebuild, which should not be the case. They should be well on their way for the rebuild, but they're at the ground floor and they're working their way up slowly, and probably not surely, just slowly. Number 20 is where I have the Grizzlies. This might sound shocking. I think for so long, people have just kind of lumped the Grizzlies into being a young core. Well, that young core is aging a little bit. John Morant is no longer a part of these discussions. Jaren Jackson Jr. no longer a part of these discussions. Jaren Jackson Jr., by the way, younger than John Morant. I learned that doing this. Desmond Bane, no longer a part of these conversations either. But you got G.G. Jackson, who would have gone number 1 overall in this draft class, I think, if he stayed in college. Zach Edey, they just drafted top 10, 22 years old. Jake LaRavia, Santi Aldama, interesting player, 23. Vince Williams Jr. had a really nice season for them last year, 24. This kind of really depends on what exactly the ceiling is for G.G. Jackson. I think we see a Wizards title in your lifetime next 15 years. What the fuck are you saying? Next 15, you knock on glass, man. I don't like that. Is that a threat? Do I think we see a Wizards title the next 15 years? No. But who knows? It's impossible to predict the NBA 15 years from now. There will be people who are currently 4 years old playing in the NBA 15 years from now. Think about that. Anyways, it depends on what you think the ceiling is for G.G. Jackson. If you're thinking all-NBA ceiling, they could probably be a little bit higher. I think there's an all-star ceiling there. That's why he's here. Edey, again, it kind of depends on what you think the ceiling is for Edey. I think Edey will be a solid rotational player. Jaren Jackson Jr. was on a podcast talking about winning MVPs. Don't know about that. Jake LaRavia is just nothing to me. Santi Aldama is a fine role player. Vince Williams Jr., good role player. 19, I have the Utah Jazz. This is kind of a volume thing here. I think I'd rather have G.G. Jackson than anybody here on this list, right? But Cody Williams, they just drafted in the first round. Interesting player. Isaiah Collier, a very, very hyped prospect at one point in time. They just drafted in the first round. You always got to watch those guys. Taylor Hendricks, top 10 pick a year ago. Showed some real legitimate flashes last year in the rare times that he did play, so we'll see what's up with him. Keontae George, one of the biggest surprises of the year last year. Keontae George was one of the biggest surprises in the NBA last year, especially amongst the rookie class. Very interested to see where his career ends up. Bryce Sensabaugh, we really didn't see much of it all last year. And Kessler is still here, one of the weirdest players in the league. One of the weirdest situations in the league, I guess I should say. But I think this is totally fair. What do you guys think? Huh? This group got beat by the Mavs by 50. You guys realize this is a top, you guys realize the point of this list? Utah team is so weird, on the verge of tanking or the play-in. I don't think they're on the verge of the play-in this year. The Kings come in here. Now, this might seem a little bit high for the Kings. Let me explain myself. I think Keegan Murray is going to have a pretty sizable step. I don't know what that step entails. I don't know if we're talking all-star or what, but I think he's going to be a very good NBA player. And I think he takes a step forward. Colby Jones, we'll see. I like Devin Carter quite a bit, and I like that draft pick for them. And I think they're confident in him, seeing they I don't think they just give up Davion Mitchell unless Devin Carter is there. No, this is just like a long-term young core thing. And Keon Ellis, who I like quite a bit. The sackings. Klay Thompson, Dallas Maverick. That's still just crazy to say, huh? But I do like Keegan Murray quite a bit. I think we saw a nice step forward from him last year, even though it wasn't really talked about much. And if you looked at the stat sheet, you might not really saw it. But defensively, I thought he took a pretty big leap forward. I think there's a lot there offensively that he hasn't reached into yet. And also due to situation and stuff, hasn't really had the opportunity to. And now that DeRozan's in the mix, that becomes a little bit more weird and interesting. But yes. The Miami Heat are here. They should be lower. I fucked this one up. They're kind of a hard one to peg, huh? Khalil Ware. People's opinions on him vary. People's opinions on Khalil Ware vary mightily. I think he's going to be really good. And he might be good for them immediately. Jovic, I've said this before. I don't know if he's going to get the opportunity this year, but he's an interesting most improved guy for me. I think there's a world where it could happen. Jaime Jaquez had a great rookie season last year. He's 23 years old. Tyler Hero is still somehow qualified for this at 24 years old. This is too low, maybe. Yeah, now that I see it, this feels good. And now that I say it out loud, like that's 4 very solid names right there. Hero and Jaquez are locked in virtually as starters. Oh, Jaquez and Hero are locked in quality starters, and Ware looks like wood if he was good. Yeah. Don't sleep on Jovic, man. He might be the cream of this crop. I do have the Warriors here. I think this is a pretty decent young core, actually. Like, I don't think it's as good as Warriors fans might say. I don't think any of these guys project to, like, take over for Steph Curry when Steph Curry retires. And these guys step in or the Warriors are still competitive. I don't see that, but I see 4, maybe 3. 3, like, really solid players. Brandon Podziemski, again, really, really surprising rookie season. Just kind of this do-it-all guard. Very interesting player who knows? You know, I said maybe it kind of feels like this is just who Podziemski is, but he has gotten much better every year of his career leading up to getting drafted last year and his rookie season. So that feels not fair to him. Kuminga's still only 22 years old, and he has been like this. He's the big breakout's coming. The big breakout's coming. The big breakout is 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 coming. We've been saying it for so long. Feels like he's 28 years old. But he is 22 and has shown enough flashes that the big breakout might be coming. We don't know. Moses Moody. Moses Moody is, wish he was better. Trace Jackson Davis, 24 years old, was an older rookie last year, but was really, really solid for them. This is a pretty solid young core, honestly. Pretty solid young core. Like, they've done a pretty good job drafting these guys. Now, of course, the Kuminga, was it Kuminga and Moody draft? What was the draft where they fucked up and could have had Franz, could have had LaMelo? Was that it? Heat better? I could see the argument. Kuminga has the highest upside out of anybody of the teams that we've mentioned recently. I have the Hawks here at 15, about middle of the pack. We will see about Richache. Was just the number 1 overall pick in a very, very strange draft, but he was the number 1 overall pick. We have to factor that in. Looked good in the preseason. We'll see. I think Richache looks to be a good player. I mean, the thing about Richache being the number 1 overall pick was when you draft someone first overall, you want them to be a franchise-altering player, and Richache's probably not that, so that's just why it feels weird. Kobe Buffkin, you know, that's my guy. Let's see. You know that is my guy. Dyson Daniels, very interested to see what he looks like this upcoming season with what should be more playing time with the Hawks. He's shown some interesting stuff with the Pelicans. This is like tenacious guard defender. Jalen Johnson, hopefully we get a healthy season last year. Last year, dealt with injuries. could have won Most Improved Player if he played enough games. That's how good he was a year ago. Lots of flashes. This do-it-all wing who can create for himself, monster in transition, good defender, good playmaker. Pretty fun stuff for Jalen Johnson. And Okongwu's still here. I mean, a weird year last year for Okongwu, but there's still some upside there. I want to say I think if the Hawks believed in Okongwu more, Capella would have been long traded, but Sixers here. So this is where the interesting conversations arise. Jared McCain drafted in the first round this year. We'll see. Interesting player off the bench for them. KJ Martin is who he is. Tyrese Maxey, far and away the best player that we've talked about up until this point. So it does raise the question, would you rather have the one really, really, really good player, Tyrese Maxey, franchise cornerstone, or would you rather have, the Hawks, where you got like 3 or 4 like really interesting names and like Jalen Johnson kind of headlining it? Or the Warriors, where you have like Jonathan Kuminga kind of headlining a couple of really interesting names. It really just kind of comes down to personal preference, I think. I think I would personally rather have Tyrese Maxey. Just full stop. I would trade all those players for Maxey, so yeah, give me Sixers. I think that's a pretty good way to look at it. So here's where some controversy might arise. Here's where I have the Bulls. I have the Bulls ahead. And let me explain why. Bazulis, I'm going to be real. I wasn't like fully diving into the NBA draft stuff this year. But Bazulis, I couldn't really get behind. But he was a pretty highly hyped prospect at one point. Julian Phillips, we'll see. Josh Giddey's still 22 years old. So that's I think where the conversation centers around. We'll get back to Josh Giddey. Dalen Terry, who they drafted in the first round a couple years ago. Patrick Williams is still 23. Isn't that crazy? Patrick Williams, still 23 years old. Jalen Smith, I think could be a more underrated pickup in the offseason. 24 years old. Kobe White's still 24. Ayo is still 24 years old. So we know for a fact Ayo Dosunmu is a rotation player in the NBA, a good one at that. Kobe White, we know for a fact, a good rotation player in the NBA. We've seen that. Should have won Most Improved Player last year. Jalen Smith, I think a passable rotation player in the NBA. We've seen it in his career. Patrick Williams, we know that he's a rotation player in the NBA, 23 years old. Josh Giddey, rotation player in the NBA with bigger upside. And this is where the center of the conversation, I think, has to be. It really, do you think Josh Giddey sucks? If you think Josh Giddey sucks, he's going to be lower. The Bulls will be lower because they don't have that centerpiece. For me, it's a funny turn of events. I've always shitted on Josh Giddey. A lot of that had to do with the fact that I thought his fit in Oklahoma City was horrible, which it was, and we saw that play out in the postseason, and it is why they inevitably went on to trade him. But I got to say, man, I think I'm interested by his situation here in Chicago. I'm interested in him being the guy, and him being the guy who's going to have the ball in his hands and play make and create. We shall see who's better, Kobe White or Giddey. I think right now you'd have to say Kobe White based off last season is better. But moving forward, and Bazulis is a solid draft prospect as well. So I think it's a decent young core. I know the Bulls get so much shit, but I don't know. Let's wait and see. Blazers here at 12. This is, I think, disappointing. If you're a Blazers fan, you would hope for this to be higher than this. But Scoot Henderson's rookie year definitely lowers this. Shaedon Sharpe is dealing with an injury again. He's been dealing with injuries his whole fucking career. Definitely lowers this. Anthony Simons has aged out of this conversation. Now, they did go and get Deni Avdija in the offseason, which definitely improves their young core. Like, that's really, really solid. Deni Avdija, it's funny because there was a quote by Sam Cassell where he said Deni Avdija was their best player. And then he came out, not Sam Cassell, sorry, Chauncey Billups. And then he came out and said, I never said that. Deni Avdija was their best player. But looking at this list, I do think Deni Avdija is their best player. Does he have their upside? No. Scoot Henderson still has more upside than Deni Avdija. Shaden Sharp, I think, still has more upside than Deni Avdija. But Deni Avdija is a better player right now. Chris Murray, I don't know. We'll see. Tumani Kamara, impressive rookie season. Really, really, really good defender. Really good defender. Offensively, but that defense will play. And then you got Ryan Rupert, who I did not like in that draft process at all. I don't think he's going to be a good NBA player, truth be told. And then Donovan Clingan, who is just interesting. I think Clingan's being slept on in a lot of these best rookie talks. I really do. Because if that shot blocking and rim protection translates, he'll be one of the more impactful. I don't think Rupert was a lottery pick. He was a first-round pick. I don't think he was a lottery pick, right? Oh, no, he was second round. Why did I think he was a first-rounder? I feel like the Trailblazers should be a better team than they are. Yeah, I mean, look, it really boils out. If Shaden Sharp, everyone's been waiting, Trailblazers fans at least, have been banking on this Shaden Sharp breakout. Just hasn't been healthy, right? So if he was healthy, this is a different conversation. Scoot Henderson, if he had a better rookie season, if he was anything better than trash for the vast majority of his rookie season, he did play better by the end of the year, then they're in the top 10 here easily. Easily. But I think you're about to see that it gets a little bit loaded after this. It does get a little bit loaded. Like the Raptors in my mind would be a top 10. Like if I'm just factoring in Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, that sounds top 10 to me. Here they are at 11. So I'm a big Scotty Barnes guy. That's why I have them this high. I think Scotty Barnes is very, very good. I think his ceiling is through the fucking roof. I do think he has the tools and the skill set to be the number one on a very, very good contending team. The team around him has to be good. But I also think he has a skill set to be an outstanding number two. If the Raptors ever got somebody else or if he goes somewhere else, a outstanding championship level number two through and through. RJ Barrett was great with the Raptors. Like, it's kind of shocking looking at RJ Barrett's numbers after the trade. Like, he was just flat out really good. Yes, 25 is outside of the young courts. 24 and older on opening night. That's what I went with. Nearly 22 points per game last year for the Raptors. 39% from three on 4 attempts a game after the trade with 4 assists. Really impressive stuff. Emmanuel Quickley is not a part of this, which kind of surprised me. Grady Dick, we'll see. Rookie year wasn't that great. Jacoby Walter, they just drafted. Jamal Sheed, some people are really, really high on. So this is Grady, Nick Angstadt, Dick. I can kind of see it. I can kind of see the comparisons. I think that they do kind of look similar. So it really depends on how you feel about Scotty Barnes. But again, I'm very, very high on him. So that's why it's here. Number 10 is the Pelicans. So this is obviously carried due in large part by Zion Williamson, who still qualifies here, 24 years old on opening night. Incredible player. Was so good last year. Was so good in the play-in. Was so good down the stretch. And then fucking got hurt the closing minutes of the play-in game and missed the entire series against the Thunder. We got to see this guy in the playoffs, man. We have to. And I'm not like super in on their team, so I don't know if we'll do it. We'll see it this year. I don't know. I want to see this guy in the postseason. You might think this is too low, but just wait till we get to the other ones. Trey Murphy, great player as well, 24 years old. Yves Messi, we'll see. They drafted him in the first round. Jordan Hawkins, first round lottery pick, right? Last year. Showed some really decent flashes last season, especially early in the year when he was playing when Herb and Trey Murphy were hurt. Still just think with their lineup, Jordan Hawkins getting minutes kind of sounds tough. With Ingram, with Zion, with Trey Murphy, with Herb Jones. Najee Marshall's gone, so maybe he just slots in there. But yeah, this is an interesting, still a very interesting young core. Still top 10. There's nothing wrong with that. Yep, Herb Jones is 26 years old. And, of course, it's similar to what, like, if Scoot played better, they're higher. If Zion's healthier, they're way higher, right? At number 9, my Charlotte Hornets. Look at this young core, man. Headlined by LaMelo Ball, who is a star player. Just needs to be on the fucking basketball court. People forget, man. All-star year 2 in the league. All-star second year in the league. Has played 50 games since then. Salon, who they drafted in the first round with a top, what did they draft him overall? 7th? Don't know what really to expect out of him this year. 6th overall pick. Don't really know what to expect out of him this year, but just kind of an interesting toolsy Frenchman. We love these Frenchmen. Nick Smith Jr., who, what did he do last year? What was Nick Smith Jr. up to last year? Did he have a good season? I honestly don't know. Nick Smith Jr., who they drafted in their first round a year ago, rookie last year, 27th overall pick in the 2023 draft, was a high-end recruit coming out of high school. So always monitor those guys, right? Brandon Miller, phenomenal rookie season last year. That individual scoring, that creation that he had, that scoring creation he had at his size as a rookie was super impressive, and that usually means we're talking about a very, very good basketball player moving forward. Mark Williams, stay healthy. Good center, good young center. He needs to stay healthy. Same with LaMelo Ball. Trey Mann, whatever. Josh Green is here, 23 years old. Kind of actually like Josh Green's fit with this team. Kind of the run and gun stuff. Cavaliers here. So here's... this was the hardest team, in my opinion, to rank. Jalen Tyson, we'll see. Isaac Okoro is a whatever rotation player. Evan Mobley and Darius Garland are obviously the centerpieces here. 24 years old, Darius Garland. Evan Mobley, 23 years old. Darius Garland has made an all-star game. Had a very, very, very weird season last year, dealing with like 5 different things. I do think he has a bounce-back season this year and is much better over the course of the season. Evan Mobley, we talked about the mythical Evan Mobley breakout for quite some time. But Defensive Player of the Year finished 3rd 2 years ago. Got to dock Garland like LaMelo and Zion. Yeah. Is this young core really better than the Hornets? That's the tough one, because I think you have 2 really, really, really great young players, like 2 all-star level young players in Mobley and Darius Garland. And if you believe in a Darius Garland bounce back and an Evan Mobley breakout, then this is about, I think, where you have to put them. And you guys know I love my Hornets, man. You know I love my Hornets. Number 7 is where I have the Indiana Pacers. Johnny Furphy, 19 years old. They just drafted him. Interesting player with some tools. Jarris Walker, you guys know I absolutely adore Jarris Walker from the draft. Still in a very weird spot with this roster and roster construction since they brought Obi Toppin back. I don't know what the future holds for him on this team, to be honest with you. Benedict Mathurin, I'm not sure what I feel about him, to be totally honest. Isaiah Jackson, solid depth big, solid backup big, Isaiah Jackson is. Ben Shepherd, Tyrese Halliburton, obviously, is the centerpiece here, and Andrew Nembhard. Seeing Halliburton, this core is meant. Yeah, I mean, if you took Halliburton out, this team is in the 20s maybe. But Tyrese Halliburton is here, and he's very fucking good. Nembhard is good. Breakout candidate this year. They just paid him a bunch of money. He was incredible in the postseason. So he's good as well. So this is a solid young core. And obviously it's headlined by like a all-NBA level player, top 15 player, which that goes back to like the Tyrese Maxey thing. Would you rather have a handful of like really good players or like a great player and then a couple like okay ones? Pelicans clear? Maybe. I watched Nimhard drop a bag of weed at the concession stand when he was at Florida. You're a fucking narc? You are a narc. Number 6 is where I have the Timberwolves. Dillingham, obviously they believe in him. They traded up to get him in the draft. Leonard Miller. Are we still interested in Leonard Miller? Anthony Edwards obviously headlines this. Jaden McDaniels, really, really good player. And Terrence Shannon Jr., who a lot of people are big believers in. 24 years old. Could have an impact immediately on this roster. We shall see. No complaints about this, right? I mean, Anthony Edwards, the best player we've talked about yet. A world where Zion is healthy, maybe. We could have an argument, but Ant is clearly the best player that we've talked about here. Jaden McDaniels, really, really good player. Rob Dillingham, lots of upside. Leonard Miller, I think, still has some upside. Thunder here at 5, so Shea has aged out of this, obviously, but this is still a great young core. J-Dub, I think, has real all-star potential and upside. Dylan Jones is an interesting player who had a really great preseason game for them. Chet Holmgren has all-star, all-NBA level upside. That's there could be MVP all-star. There could be MVP upside there for Chet. I'm just telling you. You're not gonna hear it. You're not gonna like it. I do think it could be in the cards if some things go his way. Jay Will. A solid rotation big. Cason Wallace, who's going to be a really good player in the NBA. And Topic, man. That's right. If you guys remember, slightly GM, Topic turned into one of the best 6-man in the NBA for his whole career and won a lot of championships for the Dallas Mavericks. Don't forget that. I did see Chet's shot. It looked a little strange. Chet's shot, I don't know how I feel about that, but even without Shea, this is a very, very good young core. I mean, you guys disagree with this? Now, I could see the argument. I'd rather have Anthony Edwards. Obviously, individually, Anthony Edwards is the best player of this grouping. But the duo of J-Dub and Chet, I think, outweighs Anthony Edwards. Just in my opinion. And then you add in, like, that's not even factoring in Cason Wallace, who's a really good basketball player as well. J-Dub will be a Rocket in 3 years. So in terms of like paying all of their guys, I think that was a big reason why Giddey was gone for a guy who's expiring in Caruso. But also, I think they're going to have to make a big all-in push at some point in the near future. Not this season, obviously, but next summer, I would not be surprised if the Thunder are like, all right, this is our time. We have to go now. Windows are never as long as you think they are in the NBA, ever, unless you have LeBron James. At number 4, we have the Detroit Pistons. I'm riding for my guys. I'm riding for my Detroit Pistons guys. All right? I'm riding for them. Ron Holland, top 5 pick. I think he's going to be a good basketball player. This is the disrespect to OKC. No. No, let me speak. Let me speak. Let me speak. Jalen Duren, 2020 machine. Asar Thompson, going to be a great basketball player for a long time. And if you guys watch my GM series, Slightly GM, you know how fucking good Asar Thompson is. And you know how accurate NBA 2K is. Jaden Ivey, I think going to be a good basketball player. Cade Cunningham, here it is, right? Here is the crux of the whole thing. If you are not a believer in Cade Cunningham, then this is not where you're going to have the Pistons. I am a big believer in Cade Cunningham. I think we're going to get a big Cade Cunningham season this year. Cade Cunningham was awesome last season. Nobody talked about it because the Pistons fucking sucked, and they had one of the longest losing streaks in the history of sports, so nobody cared. But Cade Cunningham was great last year. He's going to be healthy this season. There's more floor spacing finally in Detroit. And I think you guys are going to be shocked, and you guys are going to eat your words. You hear me? Another disappointment season coming, according to Slightly. I'm a sucker for these type of teams, man. The Hornets, the Pistons. I'm a sucker. I really am. I think it's just because when you're right about a team like this, it feels good. I was right about Shea. I was right about Shea. I was right about the Thunder. I mean, that's not that hard to predict, but I was way ahead of the Shea curve. These next three are stacked. Here's where I have the Rockets. Cam Whitmore showed a decent amount of upside last year. Just going to be honest with you, though. I don't think his upside is as high as Rockets fans say, but I think he's going to be a good player. Reed Shepherd, who they just drafted, who you saw the NBA GM poll. People, 50% of the votes said that he was going to win Rookie of the Year. They all think that he's going to be the best rookie from this class in 5 years as well. Jabari Smith Jr., 21, man. 21 years old, going on year 3. We would like to see that upside tapped into more. It does feel as though it's like reaching this point with Jabari Smith Jr., where we've seen flashes, but it's like, all right, can we get like something consistent out of you? And I know your fit's kind of weird. They're doing different things with you, but can we see something with some consistency out of you moving forward? I'm in Thompson. I'm a massive believer in the Thompson twins, which is funny because entering the draft, I really wasn't that much of believers in them. Yeah, I'm believers in them now. Şengün is 22. And so is Jalen Green. They're both 22 years old. They'll be on this list for 2 more years. Şengün could make an all-star team this year. Had an argument last year. Jalen Green. We saw March Jalen Green again. Pop the fuck off. Can we get that over the course of a whole season? If so, they'll be a playoff or in the contention for a playoff team, a play-in team. The March theorem. Can we somehow convince Jalen Green every month is March? And Tari Eason is still here, by the way. Tari Eason's a great player. Tari Eason is a great basketball player. 23 years old. He's just like on the fringes with this group. And he's awesome. He feels like one of the odd man out, right? How many max deals will the team give? 2 or 3? So I do think that they'll have to make some tough decisions as to who goes. Right now, Şengün's going to get a max from someone. Jalen Green is a toughie. I'm not sure Jalen Green. I think Jalen Green, you let restricted free agency ride with him. That would be my strategy. Actually, I'd let restricted free agency ride with all of these guys. Şengün, you want a max? Let's see somebody pay you a max, and then we'll match it. But let's see it. Jalen Green, you want a max? Let's see if someone wants to give you the max. If so, we will match it, but we want to see it. You saw they were saying Reed is the next Curry. He looks fucking good, man. I think Reed Shepherd's going to be really good. My hesitancy with him being Rookie of the Year is I just don't know if he gets the minutes. That's literally it. Sorry, Brad Stevens. I just don't get why, maxing Luka. Yeah, sure, max him. Like, max all those level players. Paolo. I would even say Franz is in that category. Max Franz. He's going to get max. Just max him now. Let's just do it now. Some of these other guys where it's just like, the Suns got so much shit for the Ayton thing. And I think I was giving them shit at the time only because it's fun to laugh at the Suns. But the Suns got so much shit for the Ayton thing. That was just like the right decision 100% to let that shit ride out. All right, number 2, number 1. You guys know the teams left, right? It's Magic, Spurs, Magic. What direction would you guys go with these 2 teams? Magic, number 1. So I went with the Magic, number 2. Love this Magic core. Anthony Black, going to be a good basketball player. Jed Howard, we'll see. Still, that pick was still just puzzling to me, but we'll see. Paolo, massive believer in him. I think he's going to be incredible. Franz Wagner, you guys know how much I love Franz Wagner. Jalen Suggs, incredible year last year. Tristan da Silva, going to be a good player in the NBA more than likely. Cole Anthony, still 24 years old. Solid guy off the bench. Solid scorer off the bench. This is an incredible young core right here. An incredible young core. Paolo, if Paolo takes a leap, this team is a sneaky, I don't want to say championship team because that's taking it too far, but this is a sneaky, like, what a run by the Magic. They made the conference finals. Like, oh, this is so fun. I'm telling you guys, sneaky. I think the Magic should be number one. So I did obviously go the Spurs number one. I mean, I'm taking Wemby. I think, and I'm tell me if this is out there. I'm taking Wemby, I think, over any team below them, their entire fucking cores. If I was the GM of the Spurs and the Magic came to me and said, "Here's all of this. Here's Anthony Black, here's Paolo, here's Franz Wagner, here's Jalen Suggs. Here they are. I'm trading all of them to you for Wemby." I think I'd say no. So that's sort of where it went to. Stephon Castle, who, the jump shot thing, we'll see, but Sadie Sissoko, I don't know if he's going to be anything. Jeremy Sohan, still 21 years old. Malachi Branham, 21 years old. Devin Vassell is still 24 years of age. You guys know I love Devin Vassell. Stay healthy. And Trey Jones, really, 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 really solid backup point guard. 24 years old as well. Yeah, I mean it's Wemby. Like you have Wemby. That's it. I think no matter what team, like if we just go through the list of teams that were in the lottery contention whenever this draft went on, like if the Hornets had Wemby, they'd be number one. Who else was in contention? If the Wizards got Wemby, they would be number one. Would you rather Suggs, Boncaro, and Wagner or Wemby? I just said I actually think I'd rather have Wemby. I actually think I'd rather have Wemby. Unless you think Paolo can take a top 5 leap. Unless you think that's in his future at some point. Wemby can never get better. He's still a top player because the size of two players is like an extra on the court. Yeah. Give the if the Celtics got Wemby, would they be number one? Probably not, just because there's so little. So if you I had the Celtics dead last because they had Jordan Walsh, Baylor Shireman, and Jaden Springer, I think. Are they number one if you add Wemby? No, they couldn't be, right? You couldn't put that over the Magic, right? Yes. All right, if you say so. Would you rather give Luka a blowjob or let Adam Silver poop in your hand? All right.